Luz y progreso y gracias a la misericordia. This is Sancista Brujo Luis, and I'm doing a video outside. I'm sitting outside, meditating, enjoying the evening. This is the time that I enjoy the most of the day, the evening and the night. And when I come to meditate, I often think about experiences or things that I have personally gone through in my life. And so I'm thinking about doing a series of videos titled The Life of an Espiritista or the Life of a Sancista, where I will be saying, different stories that I hopefully will teach a lesson on with a story, personal stories that I have personally gone through. So this will be my first one, and I hope you enjoy. And they are basically about personal experiences of things that I have personally gone through. So I hope you enjoy it. It's just me rambling and telling you personal experiences that I have gone through in my spiritual life and in my spiritual journey. So a couple of months ago, I was invited to be el presidente de mesa in a Espiritismo Mesa Blanca for a santero, a good friend of mine, a gentleman who is of Cuban descent, a fine gentleman, 76 years old, and he wanted me to be el presidente de mesa for his casa, his ile, and he wanted me to lead his godchildren en una misa espiritista. So I had gone, and I remember that we got there a little bit late. Espiritistas are always a little bit fashionably late, but we got there, let's say 10-15 minutes late. And I remember when I walked into his living room where he was having la sesión. Well, it wasn't really a sesión, it was more of a reunión espiritista. I greeted everybody, and I pretty much knew everybody, but there was this one gentleman that I didn't know, and I greeted him like I greeted everybody else. But when I greeted him, my spirits said to me, okay, this gentleman is from this religion, from this tradition. Now I have nothing wrong. I have no problems with people from these religions or these traditions. The religion that this certain gentleman followed, but I noticed that they work spiritually different than what we in Espiritismo work. So anyways, I greeted the gentleman, and from past experiences that I've had with people from these traditions or these religions, at the end I noticed that chocamos. I don't know how you say that word in English. I don't know how you say that in English. Chocamos. We butt heads, and it's not that I mean to. I was raised in Espiritismo, and I know the doctrines of Espiritismo. And a lot of people just think that I'm just an espiritista. They just think I'm a presidente de mesa. And I understand that they have their certain ways of doing things. I have no problems with that. So, I was there, I was doing the oraciones, and I greeted the gentleman. Before I started the oraciones, I greeted the gentleman, and then I went outside, and I brought my friend, and I remembered, I told my friend, I said, why didn't you, warn me ahead of time that there was a person from this religion, from this tradition? And she's like, well, no, I don't think he's from that religion. I said, yes. The moment I walked in, I saluted him, and he seemed very nice, but I knew, I just knew it. My spirits told me. And I said, why don't you tell me, that in past misas espirituales, and it's not that I have nothing wrong with them. I keep saying that because I have godsons that are part of that religion. I don't practice that religion. I practice Sanse and Espiritismo, two different traditions. But I noticed that me and people from that religion, we sometimes butt heads, or we work very differently at Espiritismo. So I said, why don't you tell me? And she's like, no, there's nobody there from that religion. And I'm like, yes, this gentleman is. But anyways, it's cool. He seems very nice. and let's just do this misa espiritista and go from there. So during when I sat in front of la mesa, and I started doing las oraciones espiritistas, the prayers for Espiritismo, and there's certain prayers that we do, then there's cleansings and purifyings. When I noticed that this gentleman started mounting, before we even finished the prayers, this gentleman started mounting a spirit. And I just kept doing the prayers, as we do in Espiritismo. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes we have to control la materia because we have to make sure that we say all these prayers, that we cleanse, that we purify, that we're protected from bringing lower level spirits into a reunión espiritista, a misa espiritual, or a velada espiritual. But this gentleman started mounting one of his spirits. So I finished the prayers as quick as I could, and when I had finished, we didn't even get a chance to cleanse when his spirit was on top of him. It was a very aggressive spirit, and it was just the way it treated people was very aggressive. He was touching people. He touched something that I had, a jewelry, and he said, "Oh, that's garbage." And I'm just looking at him, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm not gonna sit here and disrespect the Santero's house because he's an older gentleman and he just deserves the respect." So I'm just watching this spirit, making sure that the spirit didn't physically put his hands on anybody, because in Espiritismo we do not allow un espíritu to put their hands on materia, on a person in el público, anyone in the public. We do laboramos la causa, which are lower level spirits, but we make sure we protect el público, the people in the public, or the people who are attending la misa espiritual. So he did what he did, and I think I worked the spirit myself, and we worked una causa, and at the ending of the misa he started doing brujeria, witchcraft, in front of la mesa blanca. Now, mind you, in Espiritismo, we never, ever, ever, in Puerto Rican Espiritismo, and I'm sure in Cuban Espiritismo, and in Venezuela Espiritismo, you never work brujeria in front of la mesa blanca. Period, point blank, end of story. It just doesn't happen. I remember that he had got a client or a person from the público in front of la mesa blanca and the spirit, and he got I think it was a cracker. It was a can of crackers, the crackers that Latinos eat. It was an empty can of crackers, and he threw something in front of the can, something inside the can, and he started burning something, and he said, "Do you want to burn your enemy? Do you want to curse your enemy?" And I was in shock because I had never seen anything. We just don't do that. That is not the time to laborar brujeria or magic in front of la mesa blanca. There is a reason why we do mesa blanca. It is to laborar los seres, laborar la causa, trabajar la causa, for prayers, for healing, to give evidencias, and so and so. So he brought this woman from the público. She sat in front of the spirit, and she was confused. Everyone was confused at what was happening, and she had a problem with her husband, or I don't know what it was. I can't remember the whole story, but I remember that the spirit was going to curse the man in front of la mesa blanca. So I sat back, I closed my eyes, I crossed my hands, and I started praying. I started praying para los espíritus endurecidos. I started praying para los espíritus de bajo astral, and I prayed to my spirit, ponle a block on this woman so that this atrocity that's happening in front of la mesa blanca stops. And I think it did stop. I remember that the spirit said, "No, I can't work it right here. You're gonna have to come to my house in front of my pots, and we're gonna have to do the brujeria here, and blah blah blah." And big mess. After this show, this little circus or carnival show that I had seen, I said, enough. Let me give some evidencias when you give people, listen, watch this, and be careful with that, and blah blah blah. And everyone in the misa espirituales, we start giving evidencias. And I remember I wasn't really gonna, I just wanted to give some evidencias to everybody. I wasn't really gonna give any to this gentleman and then close la reunión espiritista with the prayers and the songs. But before I got a chance to close, he said, stop, wait a second, one moment. And I said, yeah, what's wrong? He goes, you haven't read me and I want you to read me. And I said, you're giving me, tú me estás dando autorización, you're giving me authority to read you. He said, yes. So I closed my eyes and I remember that I started reading his cuadro, his guides, and I remembered I had told him that he had this spirit that was it wasn't the one that was in the Misa Espiritual, it was another spirit. There was a spirit that was a confused spirit, and it ran around and it jumped around. It was always very, very hyper. And I said to him, I see that spirit as being a warrior spirit who lost a lot in life, and in spirit he still has that emotional, like he's always jumping around. So he stopped me. He stopped me, and I said to him, this is not your principal guide, but it's a very strong spirit in your cuadro espiritual. And he said, no, I know who you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. And that's my guía principal. And I said, well, I don't know if it's your guía principal, but it is a spirit that needs elevación. It's a spirit of elevación that needs to be elevated to help you work, to be strong with you. He goes, that's my guía principal, and he's not a warrior. And I said, okay, I'm sorry, but this is, you asked me to see what I saw, and this is what I saw. He goes, no, you didn't see it right. What you saw was my indio, el indio que yo tengo. Yo tengo un indio, because we all have indios, I guess. Yo tengo un indio, and he was a cacique, he was a chief, and my chief is my principal spiritual guide. And I sat there, and I said, really? Very interesting. I said to him, so if your guía principal was an indio, then you wouldn't be in the religion that you are in now. You would have been practicing, you would have been a priest, or you would have been a shaman. You would have been practicing more Native American or Caribbean shamanism. You wouldn't be practicing an African tradition. Your principal guide is an African spirit, a Congo spirit, and this is why you work the tradition that you do. He didn't know what to say. And then I said, okay, I'm going to close this misa. And he said, no, wait a second. I want you to read my Godfather's spirits. Tell me something about my Godfather. Okay, and I sat there and I said, trick question. Okay, I see where this guy's going. So I closed my eyes and I asked my spirits to let me see his Godfather's, whatever, his guides or whatever. And I said to this gentleman, I said, I can't see your Godfather. Your Godfather has a black shield around him that protects him from not letting me see his cuadro espiritual. And he smirked and he smiled. And he said, see, you espiritistas, you can't read us. That's what he said. He said, usted es espiritista, usted no nos puede leer a nosotros. And I said, okay, very interesting. I said, let me say something to you. Let me say two things to you. One, and I looked at my friend and I said to my friend, when we walked in here, what did I say to you? And she put her head down. She was a little shy. I think she was intimidated by this gentleman. And she said that there was so-and-so person from so-and-so religion. I said, I read you the moment I walked into this session or into this misa espiritual. I read you. My spirit guides let me know what you were and what religion you were, and so far I have treated you with much respect. One, okay? So yes, an espiritista, we can read anybody's cuadro. Sometimes we read them. If you give us authority, we can read your cuadro espiritual. Or when our spirits want to protect us, they let us see spirits of your cuadro espiritual. I said, one. Two, I said to the gentleman, where are you from? What country are you from? Because you're not Puerto Rican, you don't have a Puerto Rican accent. And I don't remember the country that he was from. And I said, oh, okay, interesting. I said, all right, I don't know how you do it in your country, and with all due respect to La Mesa Blanca, to the altar, and to the people in your country, but in Puerto Rico, one, your Godfather is not here. Your godfather is not part of this misa espiritual. He's not part of the sesión espiritual, one. And then two, you're asking me to read your padrino's spiritual cuadro when he has not given me the authority to do so. And that's very disrespectful on your part. That's very disrespectful. Two, we all have millions and billions and billions and billions of cells within our body, and inside those cells are a DNA of the blueprint of who we are, each and every single one of us, from the beginning of time, from time immortal. And it surprises me today that a lot of people, including this gentleman, they all say, my spiritual guide is a cacique, my spiritual guide was a king, my spiritual guide was a queen. They all have these spirits that are so highly elevated, but in this materia, están todos jodidos, as we say in Puerto Rico. They're struggling. I'm struggling because I know my spirit guides are not highly elevated. I do have a highly elevated guardian angel, but most of my spirits are looking for elevating, and I help them elevate. So I said to him, a lot of people in these traditions want to come and pretend that their spirits are highly elevated, and in this materia, we're all struggling. We're facing trials and tribulations, and that's just one story that I wanted to share. It's getting a little dark. The night's falling upon me. It's a beautiful night, but I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope I got the message through of what I wanted to say within this video. I want to close this actually with another story. My neighbor, Mama Chabela, is an elder, a Puerto Rican woman who comes from a familia of Espiritista. Her mother was a presidente de mesa, and her mother before that was a presidenta de mesa. And even though Chabela is part of the Catholic Church, the Catholic religion, she is the woman that everyone in my town, in my city, calls for when someone passes away, that she does la novena. She does el rosario for the the days of the novena. And she was invited to an hora santa, and she really doesn't know much about those different. She knows Espiritismo and how Espiritismo is worked in Puerto Rico, because of course she is from a family of Puerto Ricans who laboramos espiritista. But she was asked to do una hora santa dominicana, and she knows that I am a Sancista as well as a Espiritista. So she asked me, she said, Luis, I've never been to an hora santa. I was asked to do this hora santa. Would you go with me? And I said, I'd love to go with you. I'd be honored to go with you, Mama Chabela. This is what I call her, Mama Chabela. So we had gone to this hora santa, and I remember she took out her rosaries, as we do in Sanse and as we do in Espiritismo, and she started doing los misterios, las oraciones de la novena, los misterios. And I kid you not, I remember when she was doing the prayers, no one had cleansed, no one had purified. There are reglas to Espiritismo, just like there is reglas to Voodoo, there's reglas to Maria Leonza, and there's reglas to Santeria. There are rules that should be followed to protect and make sure that everyone in that prayer circle is protected from lower level entities. So I remember Mama Chabela was doing la oraciones. No one had cleansed, no one had purified. All she was going to do was do the prayers, and then we were going to leave. And there's certain ways we cleanse. We cleanse with incense, and we cleanse with Florida waters, and we cleanse in front of the altar. No one had done that when this lady, an older lady, started, you can see the spirit on top of her body. And Mama Chabela got a little bit nervous, and I said, don't worry, Mama, I'm here with you. I sent the message. And so she kept doing her prayers, la novena, when the spirit inside of this woman, a very aggressive spirit, shouted out in Spanish, who is this woman and how dare she come to this house and pray these prayers, and I didn't want these prayers, and it was just a mess. And I can say it in Spanish better. ¿Quién es esta mujer? Yo no quería que aquí se hicieran estas oraciones, and blah blah blah. And Mama Chabela's face, I looked at her, it turned white. I view Mama Chabela as a Puerto Rican child. We're very protective of our mothers, and we're very protective of our elders, okay? It's something that Latinos are. We're very protective of our elders. And I remember looking at that woman who was possessed by a lower level spirit. That's all you can call it. Un espíritu de las tinieblas, un espíritu de bajo astral que se arrastra en el piso, because it was nothing of alta luz. And I looked at it, and my presidente de mesa, the president de mesa of Espiritismo came on me, and I remembered, I stood up next to Chabela, and I said, it's very hard to say what I said, but I said, you know, how dare you disrespect her when she comes here to do la obra de la caridad, la obra de la caridad, and she's praying in front of this altar for protection and for guidance, and she's doing el Santo Rosario, el Padre Nuestro y el Dios te salve María. How dare you, spirit, lower level spirit, reclamar, talk bad about this. You are low, you are not of light, because a spirit of light would never, ever disrespect una oración, okay, when we're doing oraciones. And I said, aléjate espíritu, váyase demonio para donde se pertenece, porque aquí usted no pertenece. You do not belong in this world. And I remember the woman shook back, and she came through. She came back, and her look was just like she wanted to, like, literally whoop my ass. And I said to Chabela, finish the prayers. We had finished the prayers, and I remember the lady who had invited us to this Hora Santa, she was appalled. She was like embarrassed by the whole thing. And after Chabela had finished her prayers, she gathered her books, she gathered her rosary. I stood up, I gathered my pañuelos, we put them in our bags, and we said, we blessed the altar. And the lady who was hosting the Hora Santa said, please don't leave, have something to eat, have something. And we were like, no, you know, amen, may your home be blessed, may your altar be blessed. We came to do a misión espiritual, a spiritual mission. We completed with our job. It is time for us to leave. May whatever happens after this be blessed with much light, much respect, and we're leaving. So we left, and we passed by a cemetery. I remember we passed by a cemetery and said, Chabela, park the car in front of the cemetery. Let's go in front of the car, get some change. I got my pañuelo, I got some perfume. Let's cleanse in front of the cemetery and leave whatever negative and low-level spirit that might have been in that Hora Santa. Let's leave it in this cementerio. That spirit del bajo astral, that spirit de las tinieblas. Let's leave it here and leave it in the hands of God, in the hands of el varón del cementerio. And we did so. We cleansed, and we went home. It is important that when we're praying, when we're saying las oraciones, if a spirit disrespects those prayers, that is not a spirit of pura elevación. That's a spirit of low level energy. And as a medium, this woman was a medium, well known. She's an elder woman around her 50s who's known for practicing her voodoo. I'm sure she's been to Hora Santas, and I'm sure I'm sure they have their reglas. I've been to her country, and I've partaken in many of their rituals. But we must say the prayers. We must say them with respect. Prayers is the way we defend ourselves. It's the way we protect ourselves. And if a spirit, any spirit, disrespects a person who is praying, haciendo la obra de la caridad, and praying, giving prayers to cleanse and purify and make sure that everyone's protected in this misa espiritual, you know that this is a lower level spirit, and you have to take action, because it could be very detrimental and very dangerous for those who are part of la misa or la fiesta or la fete, or La Hora Santa, or whatever it may be. Anyways, these are just short stories. I hope you enjoyed them. It's getting dark, and I'm gonna call it a night. Much respect. Santo Sanse. This is Sancista Brujo Luis, and I hope you enjoyed.